Hello everyone and welcome back to Arctic Retro. In this video I'm going to take a look at this one. It's a Sinclair ZX Spectrum Plus. So I recently got this machine. I bought it as non-working and I showed it in my previous mail and donations video. If you didn't see that, then you can take a look at that and see the unboxing and a little bit of testing of this machine, which I concluded with it doesn't work. I tried to power it on, but no picture on the screen, so I don't know what's wrong with it. So we'll see what we can do with that and see if we can repair that machine. Before I continue, I just want to say thank you to my sponsor PCBWay. They do a great job at producing prototype PCBs. I have used them many times, so I really appreciate the cooperation. If you want to have produced your own PCBs, then just visit PCBWay.com and you can get an instant quote right now with 10 PCBs for as low as $5 US. Besides PCB manufacturing, they also do CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication and 3D printing. So that's all your needs for your hobby projects. Also visit their shared project site where you can find a lot of ready-made great designs, which you can order PCBs directly from this site. So go ahead and visit PCBWay.com right now. Alright, let's just get right to it then and open up the machine and take a look and see what we can find. So the ZX Spectrum Plus is a little bit modernized edition of the original ZX Spectrum. It has a much better keyboard and a little bit more stylish design to the case. Otherwise it has a reset button there and it has a couple of standoffs here. You can get it a little bit more tilted. It has a couple of extra keys compared to the original ZX Spectrum keyboard. We can actually take a look at the original machine and compare. Here I have an original ZX Spectrum and it's quite smaller, as you can see, and this one has this rather bad rubber keyboard. And here you can see another ZX Spectrum, a red one, and this is in fact a newly built ZX Spectrum, built from a modern motherboard replica with just new parts, no old parts in this one. And this in fact has a composite video output, so it's a little bit better picture quality on this. This one I built in a video a couple of months back, so you can check out that video if you want to see how I built this. The machine is quite dirty, although it isn't showing that much because it's black and it's missing one key, so I need to figure out how to get that key. It's the other shift key, but otherwise it looks to be in good shape. Lots of dirt and dust. It says here upgraded. So the ZX Spectrum Plus came with 48 kilobytes of RAM, while the original ZX Spectrum could be delivered with only 16K, but you could also get it with 48K, and you could actually upgrade a 16K machine to 48K if you wanted to. So I turned on the TV and just gonna plug in the power and see that nothing is happening here. So I did channel search several times, but it found nothing. So it could be anything. It could be a power issue, it could be some chips that are broken, the RF modulator could be damaged, all sorts of things which we don't know anything about until we open up the machine and do some measurements. In fact, the power contact seems a little bit loose, so maybe it's just a simple fix. Also, after this has been powered on for a while, I could smell a little yeah, like burnt smell. I'm not really sure. So I do collect machines. So in my Sinclair collection I have the ZX80 and the ZX81, but nothing more than that. So I am interested in other Sinclair machines. I actually got a Sinclair QL as well with this machine, which I'm gonna show you in some video sometime later. However, I seldom come across Sinclair machines here in Norway. You could of course find on eBay, but yeah, the prices are high and the shipping is very high, and I have to pay 25% additional tax on imports, so it's becoming more and more expensive to run this kind of collection hobby. Okay, let's not dwell more about this, and let's just open it up and see what we can find. Seems to have some screws around the edge here. These screws are a little heavy, need some bigger tool. There's at least 8 screws, or 7. I think the motherboard should be almost the same. Be interesting to see that. I mean the same as the original ZX. There's one screw here as well. I think we need to remove that too. Yeah, it's a little bit longer. Okay, let's see now. Can we open this? Yes, we can. And there's a keyboard membrane there, and yeah, this one fell out on both sides. So gently gonna pull this keyboard flat flex cable out. And there's one there as well. Okay, yeah, and the motherboard seems to be quite similar to the original ZX Spectrum. I actually got a replica motherboard here. I'm not really sure if this is exactly like the original, but yeah, the dimensions are the same, and chips for the most part are placed equally, except this ULA chip, it's further down, and this and these resistors here goes up on that side instead, but otherwise it looks to be quite similar. And the wires for the reset button, yeah, they have just soldered on some extensions there. And here's a couple of bodged on components on this chip, a resistor, and yeah, it's a diode, isn't it? Unfortunately, not many of the chips are in sockets, only these two. So yeah, if we need to replace a chip, then it's going to be more work, but hey, that's not an issue. Gonna take the motherboard out of the case, because besides trying to fix it, I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. So yeah, clean the plastics in some soapy water. And switch, is it possible to take it out? Yeah, you can just lift it straight up. First thing I'm gonna do is to check for some voltages. I said that the power contact was a little bit loose, but it's in fact not. So I'm gonna hook it up, and then we're gonna measure first the voltage regulator. Okay, so input 8.5 volts and out 4. Oh, just 4.3, and it fluctuates a bit. And this got really hot immediately. Oops. And I actually heard some sound. Not sure if it comes from the component, the voltage regulator, or not, but yeah, like a very low hissing sound. Could of course be from the speaker, but this is way too hot. The whole heatsink here is really hot. So that's probably why I could smell something like burnt. Maybe that's an easy fix. And the voltage going up and down between 4 and 5 volts is also indication that the regulation is not working properly. So yeah, let me just replace that voltage regulator right away and see if that fixes anything. So it's still way too hot to handle. Backside of the board looks completely okay. Can't see anything here. It says ZX Spectrum 1982 issue 2. Okay, now we should be able to remove this voltage regulator. Here's a brand new voltage regulator, 7805, and yeah, we need to leave some room for it to fit onto the heatsink. Also, it should fit with the hole. Yeah, I think that's good. Just gonna add a little bit of thermal paste here. If you solder first, then screw in the screw, then you can make some stress on the solder joints. Yeah, that's tight. Then solder. Okay, let's see now what happens. Do we get the same reading on the regulator? 8.8 in and yeah, steady 4.9 volts. And does it get warm immediately? No, it does not. So this is much better. Let me just check a little bit the voltages on the chips. This is the Z80 CPU. It should have yeah, 5 volts here. Yeah, 4.9 on the CPU, so that has voltage. One of the RAM chips. Yeah, 4.9 volts. Okay, so maybe this fixed it. I'm gonna hook it up now and see if we get any output from it. And still after 5 minutes, this is not even too hot to touch. I can feel, of course, some heat. Yes, it actually found one analog channel, and that it did not do before. So yeah, maybe this was a really easy fix then. Alright, we have a picture, but not a very pretty one, that's for sure. For one, the picture is very weak and has a lot of noise, and yeah, second, that there seems to be only garbage on the screen, so yeah, I think we have more faults on this then. Okay, I can feel the ULA chip is very warm. Yeah, I can barely touch it. I'm not really sure if that's normal or not, but it seems to be quite hot. So this could be several things. It could be a RAM issue, obviously, but most likely it's the ULA chip. And I mean, if the voltage regulator had failed, it could of course have produced too high voltage, and that could have damaged some chips. So I'm gonna leave it on for a while now and see if anything changes, if any other chip gets hot. In my experience, all Spectrum machines have poor RF modulators, or at least they have poor RF output signal. On the ZX80 and 81, it was almost impossible to even get a stable picture at all, and the ZX Spectrum is not very much better. Because of that, you usually just do a simple composite mod to these machines. that takes the signal directly from the ULA chip and actually output it as a composite video signal instead of using the RF modulator. There's a couple of adjustments pots. I think these are yeah, for adjusting the video. I'm not really sure if this is a pot or a capacitor, but you can adjust stuff, and I actually did, and I improved the picture a little bit. Yeah, now it's worse, and now it's a little bit better, and now it's black and white. Easier to see that way. I can actually leave it like that, and yeah, it's easier to see what's on the screen at least. Since I have another ZX Spectrum, I can actually try another ULA chip, and that's what I'm gonna do next. Hopefully it's the same chip. So there's the ULA chip. Luckily it's in a socket, but is it the same? This is a 6C00IE6 8338. That means it was produced in week 38 of 1983. Then this one is ULA 5C112E. I'm not really sure if they are the same or compatible, but I'm gonna try anyway. Okay, in with the other chip. No, it's in fact the same, so that indicates that the ULA chip is not at fault here, and that's a good thing because those ULA chips are hard to find nowadays. They were custom made for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. So then I actually think it's the RAM, so I'm gonna do a little bit of measuring with the scope and see if we can see anything bad with the signals to the RAM chips. Okay, I hooked up the oscilloscope. Now let's see if we can figure out something. I'm gonna check the RAM chips first. There's 5V input pin. Then we have the signals on the different lines. Looks normal. Here's the pinout for the MM5290 chip, and yeah, it has 8 address lines and 2 data lines, and all the address lines look alright. However, the 2 data lines, they look a little bit strange. They look like that, so yeah, looks a little bit like 2 signals, or at least partially high signals. So I'm gonna check the data lines on the CPU, see if there's anything strange there as well. Yeah, looks a little bit strange, don't you think? Not really sure if this is normal behavior. I could of course check with the other machine. The address bus seems perfectly normal on all pins. So far I only checked these RAM chips here, but there's a set of another kind of RAM. These 8 here are TMS4532 chips. So this is 32K and the other one are the original 16K of RAM. And when I scope these, they look a little suspicious. Let's take a look. So they all got 5V, but when I check the data pin, yeah, it's barely over 2V on most of them, but some are a little bit higher, like this. It's almost 4V, so that makes me suspicious about the control logic for the RAM. Now the control logic for the data bus and the RAM is here, so there's only one socketed chip, and I took it out and gonna test it now if it by any chance is not working. This is 74LS157, and that's a multiplexer. Let's check it. Yeah, that chip is okay. No need to worry about that then. With the multiplexer chip back into the motherboard, I checked a little bit on the signals on this chip, and in fact some of the pins are only hovering around 2 volts, so maybe there's something wrong before that chip then. But to figure out that, I need to take a look at the schematics. Here's the schematics, and if you take a look at the 74LS157 chips, there's 2 of those. They are directly connected to the CPU, so there's nothing there. So, but then they go to the RAM chips. Maybe I'll check the other 157 then first. Alright, so I checked with the scope on the other 157 chip here, and it appears completely normal. There's normal signals on all input and output. However, this one, even if it tested okay, it has normal input signals but not output. So that's a little bit strange. So I might be thinking there's something going on with this socket and the area around there. Maybe there's some broken trace or anything like that. No, it's actually me being confused. It's actually the input signals that are not working here. I mean, this chip here, it takes input on pins 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10 and 13 and 14. However, on pin 5, for example, there is nothing. Just 0 volts there, and pin 6, it's normal. So there is no input signal on this multiplexer on at least pin 5. I'm going to check the other chip as well. Yeah, same with the other chip. Pin 5 here, there's nothing, and pin 5, it just goes straight to the CPU on 37, A7. That's pin 37 on the CPU, so why don't we have anything on pin 5 on the 2 other chips? So I don't know what I'm doing here, obviously, but suddenly all the inputs on the 2 multiplexers chips are okay now. Oh no, that was a dead end after all. So now I realize pin 11 on this chip is not connected at all. There's just a hole there, and it's not connected on the backside. I didn't pay attention. This is IC4. I looked at the wrong chips on the schematics. And looking at the schematics now, I see that the pin 11 on this chip is in fact not connected. So yeah, that's not it then. Okay, I'm gonna solder in a new socket. This was kind of a bad socket anyway, so yeah, just gonna hunt a little bit more around these 157 chips. There's 4 of them, so yeah, the search continues. Okay, so I have checked all these logic chips here, and everything turns out to be correct. Every input and output has a good strong almost 5 volt signals, and they are all looking alright on the scope. So, and also the input on the RAM are okay, however the output is not good. So that brings me back to my previous suspicion that one or more of the RAM chips here are not good. Now it's kind of hard to figure out which RAM chip is bad, and there can be multiple. We have like 16 chips here, and if one of those are putting out a bad signal on the data bus, then it affects all. However, before I start desoldering chips, I actually want to check that it isn't the ROM. So I replaced the ROM now with the one from the other machine. Let's check out that. Do the easy things first. No, still the same. So to recap here, I verified the ULA chip is not the issue. All these 6 chips here are okay. The CPU is probably fine. The ROM is not an issue. So what's left then is the RAM. So how do we find a faulty RAM chip among 16 soldered in chips? Well, I think we actually need to just desolder them, and I'm not really sure if I have the type. I know I have these, but on the other Spectrum the RAM is in socket, so I can probably borrow from that. Now, before I start removing any RAM chips, which is a tedious job, I was thinking, isn't there a diagnostics ROM for the ZX Spectrum that you can use to replace the original ROM and test the machine? And in fact there is, of course. I found this on Retroleum. There's a diagnostics ROM image for the ZX Spectrum that tests various things, including the RAM. So I'm going to burn that onto an EEPROM and see if we can get that up and running then. So that's done. I'm not really sure about the ROM that the Spectrum uses, if it's 27 compatible or 23. If it's a 23, then we need an adapter, but I'm gonna try it first without. Maybe I'm lucky. Yes, look at that. That worked, in fact. Okay, so it's touch testing memory. Sorry about the glare on the screen. It's a reflection from the roof light. Okay, so suspected ICs, IC11. Okay, so lower RAM error at 7F80. There's some bad bits, and upper RAM is okay, so that's good to know. So IC11 was bad, judging by this test. So now it's testing some more stuff here, not related to RAM. There should of course be color here, but gonna deal with that later. Alright, so now it comes out with some more ICs that failed, and there's some garbage graphics on the screen. Yeah, it turns out that IC11 is the one coming up all the time here, so yeah, I think I'm gonna remove that first. I mean, I'm not sure if this will be an accurate test, because if one RAM chip is failing, it can affect the whole data bus and can make other RAM chips behave as bad as well, I guess. At least the upper RAM is okay. Luckily I got the whole set of RAM for the lower RAM on the ZX Spectrum. These are 4116 chips, however those on the board is MM5290N, and yeah, I guess it's the same, but because this should be 16K, which this is. Let's remove IC11 and see what happens. This was not an easy chip to get out, and in fact I lifted one trace, but I think I saved it. It's not ripped off, so yeah, we'll see. If not, I'm just gonna make a little bodge wire there, just to check that the trace that was lifted is still connected to the neighboring chip. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is not gonna be easy. I tested the RAM chip I pulled out, and it is passed, so so much for that work then. So now it just says IC12, so I guess I need to just remove one chip at a time and see if we get the hit. I removed two of the other chips and replaced them with sockets, so now I'm gonna test these. 4116. Oh, look at that, test failed. Well, I'm not always sure that the chip is properly seated in this SIF socket, so I'm going to try once more. No, test failed. Alright, maybe we found it. Let's check the other one. Okay, that seems better. Test passed. Great. Okay, we found one bad RAM chip. Nice. Actually, the new one is there already. I'm gonna replace it with the old one that did work, the first I took out. Just to make sure that the new chip is also good, I'm gonna test that as well. Yeah, it was good. Okay, testing once more. Well, Turns out there's still a RAM error and it says IC12, which we have replaced. And we still have the garbage screen, so yeah, that was not enough. Probably one or more chips are gone then. Alright, so I took out those two chips as well and tested them, but they both were fine, so I was a little bit unlucky there. So I guess I just have to remove the 3 remaining ones. I mean, why not? I have already placed 5 of 8 chips in the socket. 3 new sockets soldered in. That went very well. No damages done. Now let's test these chips, see if they are okay. Yeah, first one's good. Hopefully one of these are bad. If not, I'm not really sure what to do next. And we have a good one again. The last RAM chip for the test. Well, that seems to be good, that one too. Alright, so the remaining RAM chips tested okay, and the diagnostics test says there's a RAM fault. So how to proceed then? So the issue remains, so what on earth could this be then? Okay, one thing I'm gonna try is to replace all the RAM chips with these new ones at least, and see if that helps. I mean, even if they're tested okay, they might be marginal and might not work in the computer. Nope, that didn't help, as you can see, but it's in fact a little bit different picture now. It's stabilized, but still not working. Still says lower RAM error. Okay, so I am a little bit clueless here now. I'm thinking about the next thing is to replace the CPU, but I really don't think that's the issue here. And I closely inspected the whole board now, and yeah, this one is obviously some modification that has to do with something on the expansion port, because both of these goes to the expansion port. Also notice that this transistor here obviously has been replaced, because the solder doesn't look very nice on the backside. So not really sure if there's some issue there. So this is the transistor from the backside. Oh, it's shorted. Is it supposed to be shorted? That's TR4 on the schematics. I'm gonna take a look. So the resistance between those two pins is yeah, around 2 ohms. Okay, I'm gonna try and fix up the soldering here and see if that helps. I actually removed the transistor. Maybe this is something else, but we no longer have a short, so maybe that's a broken transistor. I'm going to test it in the transistor tester. Oh yes, it says resistor and 0 ohms between 1 and 2 as I measured, so broken transistor. I'm going to check if I can find something that I can use here. So this transistor is a ZX650, and supposedly it's kind of hard to find anymore, and there are replacements. I found a website describing what you can replace to this, but unfortunately I don't have any of those. So I'm simply gonna borrow this transistor here from this machine instead and see if that fixes the problem. I mean, this has to do with the power supply and the 9 and 12 volts for that are eventually used by the RAM, but I'm not really sure if that is related to the issue. Hopefully it is. Obviously, since there was something wrong with the voltage regulation, then maybe this one has suffered. Yeah, that's more like it. This one tested okay. Hey, look at that! Lower 16 kilobyte RAM, okay! Okay, so I guess that fixed it. Let me put back the original ROM and see if the machine boots up like it's supposed to do. Oh, well, there's still something else. Okay, I have tested a lot more now off cam, and yeah, I even placed the transistor I took from the other machine back into this machine again, and yeah, I figured I was gonna test some of the chips from the new machine into the old one. However, it actually turns out that the old ZX Spectrum also doesn't work anymore. It actually gives some similar picture as this, so I'm thinking actually both of the ULA chips might be gone, and that's the issue. I see that some of the signals out from the ULA chip looks a little bit strange. Unfortunately, I'm not that experienced in interpreting signals on a oscilloscope, but yeah, I think they're looking a little bit strange, and I actually saw the same on that one, so I'm not really sure what's going on. It could, of course, be the upper RAM as well. However, the diagnostics test turns out to be okay, but it actually fails right after the RAM test. It says that the key is stuck on the keyboard, which I don't understand why. I measure the keyboard contact, and all of the lines are high as they're supposed to be, and on the other side they're all low, if I remember correctly, so everything looks to be alright, but that might also indicate some issue with the ULA. Anyway, I think that's enough. I have run out of time, in fact, so I have to finish it off now. Hopefully I'll get back to this in a part 2 in some time. We'll see about that. Probably need to find a couple of new ULA chips then first and see if it is in fact those that are gone. So let's see if we can replace the missing key, and I in fact found models for keys for the Spectrum Plus at thingiverse.com, and yeah, gonna print this now. It is of course hollow underneath, so it needs support material then, which I have added, so just gonna export it and print it. Doing some measurements, then it's taking out a little bit material first to clean up the nozzle. Then it starts with the outline of the print. This is always a critical step because sometimes the filament or the plastic doesn't stick very well to the print plate, so it can get loose. Nope, that did not go very well. As you can see, the plastic doesn't stick very well to the plate. I think I need to use a little bit of glue. This is often a problem with the smaller parts. So this is a kind of glue that's used on printers to make parts stick better. Yes, this time I think it went better with the first layer. Yeah, just leave it to run now. It's gonna print for about 27 minutes. Almost done now. Yes, that looks nice. Seems like a very successful print job then. Now it's gonna cool down, and then I'm gonna take it out and test it. So the key came out very nicely. I'm just gonna sand it a little bit rough edges. However, it's too small. Yes, it's the height is correct, but the width is too small. I'm not sure if this was meant for another machine or something, but yeah, as you can see, it's too small. Alright, so I'm gonna see if I find another model. If not, I can probably adjust the model I have and make it a little bit wider. But you've seen the process. Yeah, I'm gonna find another key, but leave it with that for now. Alright, that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, even though I wasn't successful in fixing that ZX Spectrum Plus. But still, it was interesting to try to figure out what's wrong with it. I'm gonna continue later, as I said. By the time you see this video, I am probably at vacation in the middle of July, so I hope you too have a great summer and a great vacation. Thanks a lot for watching, and a special thanks to my patrons. See you. Bye bye.